Hey everyone, welcome to the Coder Nerd podcast. I'm Coder,
And I'm Nerd.
and Nerd just got done playing Uncharted 4 for the first time, and we're just gonna get into it. Nerd, what do you feel
Yep.
about this game?
Okay, I want to preface this by the fact that my thoughts are a complete mess right about now, and it's raining outside, so if you hear that, sorry about that. Other than that, holy shit, what a fucking incredible game, man. That was awesome. That was like one of the best level designs, best soundtracks, best endings that I've like. So, honestly, that ending was so satisfying. Like I normally take endings for granted, but this one was just Jesus. That was so good. And honestly, I really hope that they come out with like a sequel with his daughter and like seeing what she does. But although I'm not sure that, uh, hmm, I don't know. Maybe Druckmann will do something along those lines. What do you think?
Okay, so my feelings completely the same as yours. I played this game for the first time last year. This was my first Uncharted game. I have since
Yeah,
then played all three of the others, and there is a reason that I told you to play this one first. This game, to me, is the perfect example of what a true cinematic experience should be like. This is not
yeah. That's
just a
another
game.
point.
This is a whole experience which is going towards one thing. It's going towards making you feel like a swashbuckling adventurer, and being a
It does
blockbuster
it
action movie,
incredibly.
and at the same time have an investing story with real characters who are deep and who are
Exactly,
developed
dude.
and
It
who have
strikes
great
that balance
arcs.
so
Yeah.
perfectly. It strikes that balance between action movie and games so perfectly because you have these incredible ass sequences where a fucking truck with a mounted gun is chasing after you, and then you have these incredible levels where you have to traverse, and it all feels so natural. Like you don't th- that level design is so incredible. I don't know how they managed to pull that off. Where like not only do they have multiple routes to the same point, but they also manage to make all of them look relatively natural to the point where you don't actually question, whether something looks out of place or not. Everything kind of just fits, and that's so great. Honestly, that was incredible.
It is
Uh,
just some of the best work I've ever seen in a video game, let alone obviously Naughty Dog video game. Okay, so let's get into the story. So, how do you feel now that we have your general feelings on the game itself? How do
yeah,
you feel about the character of Nathan Drake, this swashbuckling adventurer with his gang of friends that he has, and he's always getting himself into these spats of like completely outrageous proportion, and yet it
yep,
is so epic to play, and it is so epic to see, and it
yep.
feels so goddamn smooth, and it feels so goddamn spectacular.
I think to quote
Elena.
that Elena in that one scene where they had that little confrontation where she told him not to lie to himself. I think that's the sort of character he is in the sense that he really does enjoy this stuff, but at the end of the day, he does realize that he's getting old for it, and he does have he does want to settle down to a degree with Elena, get a family. I mean, that's the feel that I got. It's not
Yeah.
that he doesn't enjoy adventuring about and doing all of that, but he does really he knows where his priorities are, and that's awesome.
Yeah, and
Okay.
obviously having the cast of characters, including Sam, Nate's brother, who was
Yep.
just introduced in Uncharted 4. Doesn't
Sully, who
show up.
was my favorite.
Sully, who is your favorite character, among my favorites as well. Even though Nathan Drake edges it out for me a little bit,
Yep.
and I think having played the other Uncharted games, which I'm sure you're going to do at some point in the future,
Yep.
I can completely surely say that I think this is the best narrative experience in an Uncharted game. Like, of course, this is some of the best. This is one of the best narrative experiences in any game ever, in my opinion. I think like this.
Yeah.
You can put this game right up there with Metal Gear Solid 2 and The Last of Us in terms of how well it tells a story and how well the characters are handled. And of course, in classic Neil Druckmann fashion, the characters are handled with such grace and they are given so much depth and development over the story.
Yeah.
Every person starts out a different way than they end. A great example of this, of course, is Nate and Elena in the beginning. Both of them have made this mutual agreement to just
Promise
sort of
of the
stay,
sorts. Yeah.
just sort of stay safe
Away
and play
from
it
the
safe.
adventuring life.
Exactly. And by the
Yeah.
end of it, they realize that, this is kind of in our blood, and this is something that we love doing. And
Yeah.
hey, maybe it's not necessary to always do it in death defying circumstances, but maybe we
As
can
Elena
maybe we can do
mentioned it, they
something
sort
with
of
it.
oversteered.
Yeah, they
As
sort of
Elena mentioned,
oversteered,
they sort of,
exactly.
yeah.
And then of course you have the brilliant character arcs of Sam and Sully. Sam, of course, beginning as this kind of, he's out to prove himself. All he wants to do is find this treasure with his brother. All he's ever wanted to do is to prove himself and to take care of his brother.
I think in
And
that regard, the flashbacks like show it so perfectly as to where they come
oh,
from
the
and where their
flashbacks. Thank
general.
you,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
reminding me about the flashbacks,
yeah,
because this is the second time in the Uncharted series that we've gone back to Nathan Drake as a child. First time being Uncharted 3: Drake's Deception,
yeah.
which also coincidentally that game expands my bad, on the relationship between Nate and Sully, whereas this game expands on the relationship
Ooh,
between Sam and Nate. And I think
yeah.
that
Elaine
is,
and
yeah.
Elena and Nate
And
as well.
well, of course it does, but the flashback specifically
Oh, yeah.
expand on Sam
Okay.
and Nate. And seeing the origins of Nathan Drake, having experienced, of course, the reveal of Nathan and Sam Drake not being their names. The reveal was actually made in Uncharted 3, where it was revealed that the name Morgan was not specified, I believe. But
Yeah.
it was sort of revealed to the audience. Obviously, Nathan knew, but like it was revealed to the audience that Nathan Drake is not his given name. And I think Druckmann and Straley did an amazing job. Actually, I think okay, Neil Druckmann and Bruce Straley directed. I think Neil Druckmann and Josh Scher were the ones who wrote the script, and they
Yeah.
did an
Even
amazing
for
job.
Uncharted 4, I think.
The no, it's specifically for Uncharted 4, because the Uncharted games before this were written by Amy Hennig, who left Naughty Dog after Uncharted 3, and after which point Neil Druckmann took over most of
Mm-hmm.
her duties. And they did to me such a perfect job of living up to that legend of Nathan Drake, and did such a perfect job of having an origin to Nathan Drake, and did such a perfect
Yeah.
job of fleshing out that story and actually making it super super worth it. And I
And
can
the
understand.
first
Yeah.
few chapters, the first few chapters where there's a huge history to Nathan Drake. Like I haven't played the other games, but from every action of his, from every chapter, from every conversation, that history sort of hits you. Like it's constantly reminding you, yeah, this guy's been through a lot. He knows what he's doing, and that's pretty awesome, I think.
Yeah,
Uh,
and also to me, like, again, as a fan of Uncharted, I did replay this game with Nerd, and as a fan of Uncharted, like of all of the previous three games as well, that little cupboard wardrobe thing that you
yep,
open at the
yep.
end, that is a treasure trove. Everything inside of that cupboard has something to do with. Obviously, you're not aware currently, but it has something to do with the previous games, and it's just a joy to see all of those things again.
It's I think it's specifically for the people who've played the first three
It
games as
is
well.
undoubtedly specifically for
Yep.
those people as well, and of course, like,
But I love how well it's tied in any case. Like, even though I
exactly,
don't know exactly what
you
happens,
don't need to know who
to
Nathan Drake
enjoy the
is, and
content.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's
This is
incredible.
one of the reasons that I found this game so good. And it surprised me so much that when I set off playing this game last year, I
Yep.
simply started on Uncharted 4 because to me it looked a lot more like an experience I would enjoy in terms of a narrative experience than the other games, because the other games to me, even looking at I had bought the Nathan Drake collection, which is the first three games, and I bought Uncharted 4. And Uncharted 4 just seemed appealing to me, and it was such a good decision, I think. Having played the other three games, starting with Uncharted 4, at least for a person of my disposition who I'm way more attracted to deep narrative storytelling than the sort of action arcade shooting
Yeah,
type combat gameplay of the first three games. Although those have their place, I would definitely say
they have their own charm, I
yeah, they
bet.
have their own charm, and I would definitely and say I'm not saying that there was no narrative in the previous games. Of course there were. Uncharted 2, one of the best games of all time still to me, even after playing Uncharted 4, even though Uncharted 4 just beats that game on a lot of levels for me, at least for me. But like, the story of Uncharted 2 is also unparalleled by a lot of other games. um and I
Yeah,
was
again, I
just, yeah.
just can't stress enough as to how much I love the level design of this game, because just everything flowed so
Yeah,
well
and
together.
even
Even in the
even
flashbacks when
like,
you're like,
yeah, like, just talking of the level design, Naughty Dog just does a superb job of making
yeah,
you just kind of get used to playing this game. And what I mean by that is that after a while, after you've played this game, and this to me, this was so resonant in my replay through that I did, that I was so used to Uncharted that I just kind of knew what to do, and I kind of knew where to go, and I was already in that
yeah,
rhythm. The
that's
game did
true.
not need to point me in any specific direction. It just
Yep.
kind of led me on my own path. And like you said,
And you sort of wanted to explore as well, because it's
yeah,
this
exactly.
beautiful,
And
beautiful
like you
world,
said,
and
Naughty
everything
Dog,
flows so
yeah.
naturally. Like, as long as you move in that, as long as you go with the flow, you're always gonna get to where you need to go, and that's so awesome.
Yeah, exactly. You don't really
And
need to
it's
think about
insane
it.
to me.
Yeah.
It's insane to me how well they actually tied in the cinematic a factor in there. Like all of the jumping off of broken bridges, and
Yeah,
driving the
I see.
cars off of
This
broken
is
bridges
a
and
tip for
jumping
anyone who hasn't
off
played
of
this game yet.
cliffs.
If you see a bridge, it's going to break.
Yeah, pretty
It's
much.
going to break.
Don't trust it.
And yeah, Nathan even says at one point in the game, "I hate bridges." I completely agree with him. Anytime you see a bridge,
Yep,
9 times out of 10,
it will break.
9.95 times out of 10, it will collapse, and
Yep.
something will happen, which will involve you hitting buttons quickly to get out of the situation.
Nathan does have a knack for breaking things. I will
Nathan
say that.
does have a knack for breaking things. He really, really does. Which brings me to the excellent, unparalleled, in my opinion, action sequences of this
Oh, dude,
game.
yeah.
The
What
action
a fucking
sequences in this game
what a
are a
masterpiece.
sight to behold. They are
Yep.
such technical masterpieces that it really just
Technical or not,
blows my
it's
mind.
just so incredible to
Yeah,
play. It's
it's
so
just the
much fun.
everything about them, the cinematography during them, the gameplay,
Yep.
the mechanics. Of course, the for me the
To reference
biggest,
that one
yeah,
car
the for
chase
me the
where,
biggest action sequence that I remember is the car chase that you're talking about in Madagascar,
yep,
where Nate
yep,
gets
yep,
dragged behind a truck. And
uh-huh.
the fact that uh Naughty Dog, I wouldn't say had the presence of mind, but again, the design of the game is so magnetic that the fact that you're being dragged from a truck on a rope, and you're being like dragged through mud, and you can climb up the freaking rope and start like skiing on the mud, and you can climb up to
Mm-hmm.
the truck, knock out the guy inside, and then once the truck is getting shot up a lot, hop onto a freaking jeep on the side of the truck, and then start
Start
driving that
driving that. Just
spontaneously. And then if you want to hop off the Jeep onto a bike, go ahead and do that. No one's
yeah.
stopping you from doing that. And that is, to me, it boggles my mind. Like when you think of an action sequence in a game or in a movie, you're thinking of something that is so planned and so sort of locked in. And I keep reiterating this point. I said this during the Last of Us review as well. Naughty Dog shows constant mastery of the medium of video games. They
That is so
know
true. I
how
agree.
to make a game.
Yep.
They know how to turn these things into something that makes an entertaining masterpiece of a gaming experience. And
And
to me, it was like
you know,
nothing parallels that for me.
to talk about even the normal fights with the what do you call with the normal goons, right? That's still so much fun
The
for the simple reason
combat in this
the
game is so fluid, and it just kind of,
because again
yeah,
they also integrate the movement
they
mechanics into
integrate the
it, where you can hang
traversal
off of ledges.
exactly. You can hang off
you
of
can
ledges, you can
use your
swing around on ropes while shooting
Yep.
people in the
You
head.
can jump down and knock someone out. You can
Yeah,
sneak your way
and
through
it just,
everything. You can
it's the
guns
traversal,
ablaze your way through everything.
the
It's just
traversal
so
in this
awesome.
game is so fluid. And again, right, like
So
one would think,
seamless. And the transition is so
yeah,
seamless.
one would think that, in a game that is primarily about platforming and climbing and fighting, you would think that, it would be a little bit of a rigid structure, right? Like when you're platforming, like something like Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order comes into mind, right? That when you're climbing something, you're kind of locked into that. You're climbing something. If you're fighting people,
Yep.
kind of locked into fighting people. Not with this game. With this game, if you have a bunch of enemies in front of you, it is completely up to you. Take them out silently one by one, or go in guns blazing, throw your grappling hook around a pole, swing around, kill 30 people while you're at it, jump onto another platform, choke out this one guy, go back into hiding, come back out, blow everything up, go back into hiding, sneak attack the last guy. It's
And
up
that
to
too
you.
with the vast array of weapons, weapon types, the vast array of enemy types. Like everything about the combat is, again, it's
Yeah,
just so vast
it's so
and so awesome
focused
and
on
so well
making the
integrated.
experience. It's so focused on making the experience just fun for the player.
Yep.
And more than that, every single thing, no matter what I see in this game, every single thing that you do is automatically put in your favor of looking like a shot from an action
Absolute
blockbuster.
badass. Yep.
Exactly. The
In
game
every
is
shot.
optimized for you to be an absolute badass. Okay, like for example, in other games, like let's say if you were playing Metal Gear Solid, I would not tell you to hang from a pole and shoot people. Wouldn't tell you to do that. If you're in this game, I would tell you, hey, you see that pole in the middle of those two platforms? You go
Do
ahead,
whatever the
jump
fuck
on
you
it,
want.
hang on it, go and fucking swing onto the other, climb onto this building, jump onto this guy's head, take him out. Anything you want. And the
Just
traversal in this
legit,
game,
you could do
yeah,
anything
the
and
traversal in this
it'll
game
look great.
being so good on its own, it was such a stroke of genius to incorporate the traversal into the combat and to design combat arenas based around traversal. There are buildings that you can climb up, there are structures you can climb up, down, left, and right. Any way you want. You can hang around, you can swing on ropes,
And you gotta
you can
like
do
deal with
everything.
snipers with that. You gotta deal with heavy
Yeah, and
body
of
armor
course the
weapons.
combat
So
design
awesome.
as well. The combat design is always designed to keep
Yeah.
you moving. It never ever lets you stay at one place. If you stay at one place,
Because
some
yeah, just a
random guy is
grenade's gonna
gonna
be thrown
hurl a
under your
grenade at
ass.
you, and then it's
Yeah.
gonna be under
You
your ass,
can't.
and you're gonna have to be forced to move. And whenever you're forced to move, hey, there's a sniper out there. He's got a laser sight on you, and if you don't move, he's going to one shot you. So you need to
Yep.
always keep moving. The game is
You gotta be
forcing
moving.
you
Yeah.
to look like an action star, which is exactly what Nathan Drake is. And of course, beyond that, you have the excellent narrative design with the story of Henry Avery and Thomas
Because you have
Stew.
this you have this incredible level design. You have these incredible mechanics. You have you have this incredible combat system, and on top of that, you have this incredibly investing story and incredible characters, which just makes the entire
Yeah.
experience
And dude,
so
when
enjoyable.
when I can say this about not just a game, but really about anything, if the B story, right, the B plot, the plot of the pirates and Henry Avery and Thomas Stew, if you can keep me engaged within your B plot, I don't know what to
Yeah,
say to
yeah.
you. That is just
Because
masterful. Like,
you know that you know that table when you're at inside
that was
Q's
such a
mansion.
mind blowing moment
As
for me.
soon as I entered, I was like,
It was like,
"What? That's
this is
fucking crazy!"
so epic. And
Because
when
immediately my
Nate
mind
when
went,
Nate
"Yes,
actually
this is exactly
says
what happened."
when Nate actually says, he narrates the sequence of events, you feel what Nate's feeling. You feel this sense of complete awe, like, oh my
Yep.
god, once upon a time
Did
these
this
were
really
all
fucking
real
happen?
people
Yep.
who actually died because of this, and these two other people betrayed them, and like this, all of this actually happened. And of course, again, that ties into the excellent level design, where I really don't know how overworked the people at Naughty Dog are, but if the levels and environments are anything to go by, they must be working their goddamn asses off, because there
Yeah.
are little tidbits of history
Honestly,
scattered
I
around
didn't
every
want to.
single angle. Yes.
I didn't want to leave the credits because I just wanted to, like, I wanted to see how many people it took to make this masterpiece, and B, like, just try and understand how incredible all of them are for actually being able to pull this off.
For sure.
First off,
I mean, like,
because
yeah.
even the cutscenes, the transition between cutscenes and actual gameplay for everything, whether it's an action sequence or a normal conversation between Elena and Nate, again, everything is just so seamless and everything is just so well done. I think again, this is just one of those games for which I can say it hits the mark on every possible, you know, aspect, and
Yeah,
that's so awesome.
for sure. And like, it's such a when I played it the first time, it was something that I had never seen before. It really wasn't, and it
Yeah,
was just something that I was so in awe of, because this is the first time I was really exposed to Naughty Dog, and specifically Neil Druckmann's ability to to master the format of video games at to that extent. Because before Uncharted 4, that is, all we had from Naughty Dog in terms of more narrative storytelling was The Last of Us, right? Because the previous Uncharted games, like I said, they had very well fleshed out stories and everything, but the series never really reached the narrative heights, at least in my opinion, never really reached the narrative storytelling heights of Uncharted 4. The intricately crafted, cut scenes, and it
yeah.
basically is a playable action blockbuster movie. And you never got that feeling with the previous games, and that was something to me that instantly stuck out the first time I played it. And it's just such, to me, like, it started this sort of dialogue in my head about video games as an art form. Really, I mean, it was the first time that I had seen someone take advantage of video games as an art form, as they are. Because who doesn't want to be Nathan Drake, right? Who doesn't
Yeah.
want to be in the shoes of that guy? And for Naughty Dog to do such an amazing job of bringing him to life through these amazing combat mechanics and
And
traversal
even the
mechanics.
other characters, I think
Yeah,
even
even
the
the other
other
characters,
characters were
and
done
just giving
so much
giving
justice.
giving the other characters their own 2 cents, and giving
Yep.
them their own
At every turn.
yeah. And also,
Even Nadine, for that matter, right?
even
Like
Nadine and Rafe, right? Even,
fight,
yeah.
that fight between Nadine, Nate, and Sam. Like I was just in awe because, like, how badass is this chick? She's taking on
Yeah, she she
Nate and
she
Sam
took she
at the
took
same
on Nate
time.
and Sam without taking a single hit, right?
Yep,
And
whooped their
I mean, like
fucking ass.
come on. And even though, like, you can make the argument that Nate and Sam are not trained and whatever, blah, but like, she went 2-on-1,
But come
and she
on,
beat the
yeah,
shit out of both of them. And it was only
yep,
when Sam got the gun on her. And okay, by the way, this brings me to a very, very genius thing. Another thing I have to point out with Naughty Dog's implementation of video games. There is a mission early on, which portrays Sam's escape from the prison, the quote unquote gulag, if we're willing to call that.
yeah. All
Where
right,
it's this mission where you go through the prison and it's a whole action packed, completely fucking full of explosions and like gunfire and the cool little chases, and it's a really really action driven huge set piece level. um and
And it never fucking happened.
it never happened. And Naughty
Just
Dog, and
never
this
fucking
again,
happened.
this is another one of those things where I was just like, I thought about it after the fact, right? I thought about it when I replayed the game as well. When I replayed the game this time, when I hit that level, I was like, this isn't real. And it just blew my mind. Like, even a year after playing the game, it still blew my mind. Like, this mission is not happening. This is all made up, but we're
Because it's so
still playing it.
contradictory, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're still playing it, and it is still a part of this experience. And the fact that the player before this point, at least in all of the games that I've played, I mean, not all, like some games have done the playable sort of fugazi type situation before, but for this game, it wasn't even a throwaway level.
It took
The
it to a
level,
completely different
yeah,
level
the
because your
level
brain is constantly contradicting you.
yeah.
Your memory is telling you, okay, well, this didn't happen, and then while you're playing it, you're like, no,
But this is happening.
yeah,
I'm doing
that's
it.
happening.
I'm playing it.
Pretty sure that's
Yeah,
pretty sure it's
because
happening
yeah,
right then.
exactly. And the level, again, it's not one of those levels which screams, oh, this was just done last moment and just sort of thrown together. No,
Yeah,
it's a fucking well produced, well acted, like, Troy Baker is in full effect as Sam in this. Don't know if you knew that Troy Baker plays Sam.
I did
And
not. Thank you for knowing it.
yeah, and everyone's on their A game. The designers, the artists, the programmers, the set, the lead TDs, everyone on their A game. And
Yep.
this level, to me, it was just the dedication that Naughty Dog has to telling its story. That this was important for it to happen with us, so that we knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is how Sam escaped, and this is what Sam is doing. And then later on, when we
It
have
was
the
just to sell
reveal,
it,
it
sell it
was
to
it
us,
was
and that
just to
was
sell it.
great.
Exactly, and it
It
worked,
worked like
and
a
it
fucking
paid off.
charm.
And when
Yeah.
when the reveal hits you, it hits you the same way it hits Nathan. And that
Yep.
is, what are you talking about? What is happening? I left my life for you. And
Yeah,
it
yeah,
hits, it
that one
puts you
comment.
in it puts you in
Yep.
Nathan's shoes in that moment, and you feel that
That one
betrayal.
comment is so heavy because he really fucking means it. He lied to his wife. He almost broke, like, his marriage is in the shredder for now because, well, he hadn't talked to Elena at that point.
Yeah,
He had pissed off his best friend, right?
yeah,
All for something that never
that
even
never
fucking
even
happened.
existed, never
For
happened.
15 years, he thought his brother was dead.
Dead.
And turns out his brother has been alive for 2 goddamn years
And
and
the
hasn't once
first thing he
contacted him.
says is a lie to his face.
Yep.
And that
Yep.
is just, that is just
It's hard to recover from.
it's obscenely good character development, and it's such good writing, and it's such good
Which
implementation.
is exactly why that one comment, I left my life for you, it had so much weight. It hit like a fucking wrecking ball. That was great.
And the choice of juxtaposing that moment, the moment where Sam takes the bullet for Nathan and Nathan tumbles off of the cliff, to immediately follow that up with the flashback scene at the mansion, is such genius.
so great.
And it is to tell you, Sam is not the villain here. No matter what he did,
He had his reasons.
He had his reasons. He loves Nathan, and he will do anything to protect Nathan, and that still exists. Because if the flashback had not been positioned there,
And
or
it
if it didn't
shows his
exist,
mindset too, because like he along with Nate has had a shit life for most of their childhood, right? Because they haven't been able to they had to be in the orphanage, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. And then
Sam, I
they
think Sam ran
finally
away.
find their well, not sure when he did that, but yeah. And they finally find their mother's stuff, which is their like last connection to their mother who was the only part of their childhood that they actually liked or
Loved and cared
appreciated.
about,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And
So
it
I
was
mean,
it
I
was
get
such
where
like,
Sam's coming
yeah,
from, and that's awesome.
narratively it is just such a beautiful thing that you juxtapose that moment of betrayal with this beautiful moment of brotherhood and of
Yep.
connection. And you just kind of see, and it was so important to the story, because if you didn't have the moment, I would never trust Sam again. I would really
Yeah.
kind of just be like, what is he thinking, what is he doing, like what is like, I would think of him as some conniving guy who's just trying to get his best out of Nathan and then leave him in the dust, right? But that the choice to put that flashback right next to the betrayal, it it's such good storytelling, and
It
it's
turned the
such
tides.
good,
Yeah.
exactly, and it
Because it
kept
gave you
you.
an explanation for why Sam acted the way he did, and it made you understand his
Yeah, and
motivations,
and more than that,
and it
it made
showed
you
you
realize
what
that
was
no
going through
matter,
Nathan's head as well.
exactly it.
Because Nathan realizes this, like he knows that he's been betrayed, but after he calms down, he realizes, yeah, okay, I get that he had his reasons, and at the end of the day, even though he betrayed me, he's still my brother, and
Exactly.
yeah,
And
I
that
gotta go save
that
him.
and I think the Uncharted series as a whole kind of is about family at the core of it. And
Yeah,
with, especially with Nate and Elena and Sully, those three. Again, when you play the first three games, you understand exactly what I'm talking about. Those two, and fun fact, the picture that the game ends on with the three of them
yep.
standing over treasure, that's from the first game. uh,
Oh, that's
s-
awesome.
so you kind of understand these relationships and you know them so well, and it's just such good work that's been done in context to characters, in context of that. And let's not forget, right, another technical aspect of the game which contributed to the story in so many ways: Henry Jackman's score. The score for this game
Yeah. Oh
is
my God.
criminally underrated. Not enough people
I
have
don't get
listened to
why.
it.
It's so perfect because it captures that feeling of
Yeah,
it being an action blockbuster so perfectly, but it mixes it with the
with these
mysterious
tender sort
level
of,
and the
yeah,
mysterious, yeah, story. And yeah, of course, the character, it
yeah,
mixes it so perfectly.
it's,
And those tiny little sounds when you're exploring the cabinet, of the previous relics, like it's a reference to the previous soundtracks. It's so
yeah,
perfect.
that
It's
is. And
so
see,
good.
you got that even though you haven't played the
Even,
previous games, and then
yeah,
um
because it was
yeah,
just out of place enough for me to realize
to
that,
realize
oh,
that this
this must
is
be a
what the
reference.
soundtrack was
But
from each of the
but
previous games that
it
this
wasn't
thing
out
is
of
from.
place enough for me to be, this is a little
It
weird. Why
doesn't
did
work.
this suddenly
Like,
happen?
it wasn't out of place enough
It's
to not
so
work,
good.
but it was just out of place enough that it made you notice, hey, when I picked up that Spanish doubloon, it played the theme, but it played it in a different like way. And you kind of
Yep.
realize, oh shit, that's the theme from the first game instead of the theme from the
Yep.
second or the third game or this game. And Henry Jackman's score, the main riff that happens, which is the classic sort of Uncharted, like
Yeah.
that thing. Um, Whenever you hear that, at least for me, I just get so pumped, right? I just get, and
Yeah, for
it
real.
and
Because
the
and
I
even
would like
during
to
the
point out a
action
specific.
sequences.
I would like to point out a specific moment actually, with the mansion scene when
Yeah.
they're running away from the police. Only that violin plays, and it elevates the scene to this other level that couldn't have been
Yep.
possible without that score. Yeah, you were saying.
Yeah, so like in the fighting sequences, the song that plays then, or like when you're running away from a, well, truck that's shooting at you, right?
Well, yeah,
That particular score, oh God, that's so awesome
yeah.
because it
And
really
again,
makes you
it
feel
makes you feel like, and again, like, we hate
like
this
you're
phrase, but
there,
like,
and that's
yeah,
so awesome.
it makes you feel like you're in the midst of an action blockbuster, and
Yeah,
it just has this
precisely.
very, very scrappy yet epic feel to it, right? It's epic because
Yep,
it's orchestral, but the tune itself is very sort of rudimentary and scrappy, and it just sounds perfect for Nathan Drake in every way, shape, and form
exactly.
imaginable to
Yep,
me. That, like, criminally underrated score. The sound design in this game, freaking,
so good. Yep.
excuse me,
Dude,
like,
when you're okay, one of the things that I actually have never seen in any other game. I don't actually remember whether this was in LOU2 or not. But like when you're continuing off a conversation that got left off because of some other
Yeah.
cutscene or some
Yes.
bump
Yeah.
or something,
Yes.
like Nathan's immediately like, "Sorry, you were saying," and then the character starts speaking.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
exactly.
That
That
makes it
yeah,
seem
that
so much more
and
natural.
it's those
Why don't
tiny
people do
little
that?
touches. It's tiny little touches like that that help just sort of make this world come alive, right? The world is
Yep.
already there, right? You have these beautiful like awe-striking, if that's even a word, environments, right? Awesome environments, like especially with the crooked mountain in Madagascar, in
Yep.
Libertalia, and with
Yep.
Madagascar and that whole little tundra sort of red sand place. Like it's beautiful environments. You have great acting from Nolan North, who plays Nathan Drake, and Troy Baker, and Victor no not Vic, Richard McGonigal, who plays Sully, and of course Emily Rose, who plays Elena. And you have
Mm-hmm.
these brilliant actors who are doing their best work here. And you have these, of course, like this amazingly masterful team of writers and designers and artists and programmers who are making the experience come along. But then it's little touches like those, it's
And I
the
think the
little
most
conversations that these
incredible,
characters have. Like, if for example, you go too fast in a car and the car takes a heavy bump, Sully will say, "Hey, does this car come equipped with airbags or parachutes?"
yeah,
Huh?
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Like, and it's just these tiny little character moments that build up and up and up and up and just give you a three-dimensional character rather
I
than a
think one of the
one-dimensional.
peak level designs was in the clock tower,
Oh, the
where you
clock
like
tower
jump.
was
Oh
so
god,
good. The clock
yeah,
tower level was so good, and and again, the clock tower, I think, one of the best examples of integrating cinematic with
just
gameplay, because
yeah,
you
because
kind
when
of
that
you
bell is falling and
yeah,
you're
right,
falling down from the top of the fucking tower,
yeah,
and you have to do
and
this entire action
you
sequence.
still have to be careful, because you can be just dropped onto a slat at any moment and start
Yep,
sliding, and now you're in gameplay, and now you actually have to press the button to save Nathan to have him like jump to a
yep.
beam or something, and
And
it's
at the
all
end of all of
live.
that, a random cog just falls
This
right
falls right
beside you.
next to Nathan. If it fell 3 feet to the right, Nathan would be dead as a hammer
Dead,
right now. That like
just dead
yeah, and that is just the
right then and there.
and the game. Oh my god, it's so full of these just ridiculous moments where it's clearly referencing the fact that this is what happens in every
This is a
action movie
game.
ever,
Yeah,
right? This is what happens in like every blockbuster action movie. Like somehow the protagonist just survives fucking everything, and then at the last moment
unscathed.
there is this one
Yep.
thing that can kill him and it doesn't, and the game references that. Like, it's very self-referential in that way, that it's embracing what
But
it
it's so
is.
good.
Yeah, it's not
It's
trying to
so
be anything that
perfect
it's not trying to
because
be Last of Us, right?
yeah,
It's just being what it is, which is an
it
amazing.
does
Yeah, exactly.
because it does give off the feeling of danger and like you can die at any given instant, but you
Yeah,
don't,
but
and
you
that's the
don't. and
beauty of
and
it.
and the thing is, like, while replaying this game, I just had so much fun just zipping around the levels, especially during
Yeah,
combat. Like, I just had fun. I focused on making the most bombastic sort of, show offy moves that I could, and guess what, those are the moves which get you the most kills in this game. Somehow it's just programmed that way. Like, if you replay this game and you replay certain encounters, now that you
I
know
really
what is
want
going to
to.
happen.
Honestly,
Yeah, now
if I
that you
get a
know is
PS5, I'm
yeah,
gonna do that.
like now that you know what is going to happen in those encounters, right? Like, for example, in the ship graveyard, you know that there's
Yep.
two turret enforcers coming in. So what you can do is that replay that encounter, get your hands on a rocket launcher, like, make sure it's filled up, and then you can just take them both out in, like, 2 or 3 hits
Poof.
each, and then just spend the rest of the time zipping around the level on your grappling hook and just swinging from place to place, or just murking people. Like, it's so much fun to even replay these levels, which, and of course there's a shit ton of replay value in that. And it's just testament
Yeah, because
again to
it's
the
just
design of
straight
this
up
game.
fun.
Yeah, it is just
It's
fun.
fun to do it.
Yeah, and of course,
And the
like,
level design, okay, one could say that the level design is pretty get from point A to point B, but it
but the
just doesn't
way
feel like
you
that.
get there is what
Yeah.
matters,
Plus,
right?
it doesn't feel like that at
Yeah,
all.
it
It
doesn't
feels
feel
like
like that.
you're
See,
making
it
every
it
action.
it it it
It's not getting from point
yeah,
A to
it
point
can
B.
it yeah. if you're
It's
if you're
getting
speaking
from point A to
theoretically,
B to C to D to fucking Z, right?
yeah,
It's so awesome.
theoretically speaking, right, when you talk about it in a level design sense, This is not an open world game, although there are some open world sections in this. So there's the Madagascar
Mostly the
section.
car driving
Mostly
one,
the
right?
car driving ones are the open world sections.
Yep.
But at the core of it is not an open world game. It's a narrative game. However, the environments are so intricately detailed, and of course we have the
So well
classic.
made and so
Yeah,
fun
and
to
and
explore that I
and
don't mind
yeah,
that
and
it's not open
Naughty
world.
Dog, because they make these environments so natural, and you will never ever be able to tell the difference just by looking at something, that whether it's a jumpable ledge or a climbable ledge or not. Now,
Yep.
a great way that Naughty Dog does this is a very neat design trick. Any climbable ledge, and almost every climbable ledge in the game, is going to have this little white trim to it, that you'll
Yep.
just
Yep.
see
Yeah.
that trim and you'll be like, oh yeah, I can climb that. In the previous games, this is
This
denoted
isn't the
by,
case with a lot of them, but yeah.
yeah, like in the previous game, this is denoted by the color yellow. In the previous games, if anything is yellow, that means you can climb it. And this is so helpful in terms of, and also, I don't know if you noticed it, but in the car chase sequence, the truck one, with when Nathan is driving and then he gets hit by the truck and the car rolls over and it's on fire,
Yep.
you realize he grabs onto a couple of handles. The
Yeah.
handles are bright red. And
Okay,
yeah,
fair enough.
and like it's just these tiny little things which you never ever notice in gameplay. However,
Oh yeah, that brings
yeah,
me to another point of like all the mercs being like, it's impossible that he
it's
survives this. It is
yeah,
absolutely
and which is
impossible.
what I said.
And in
Yeah,
that time is when Nathan Drake fucking kills him.
yeah,
It's so cool.
it's what I said about the self-referential nature of this game. It's having fun. This is a fun game. This is not Last of Us. We're not in this dark dreary world where people can just
Yep.
die, right? It's in this fun world where we know that the main character is going to come out of it unscathed. We know that all the main characters are going to survive. There is no real risk here, but the fact that the game makes you feel like that, even though I know that Nathan Drake is going to be fine at the end of this, because if Nathan Drake died, it would betray the entire tone of the game, and I know they're not going to do that, right? In Naughty Dog, I
But it's still
trust,
fun.
and but it still makes you
Still
feel like,
incredibly
hey, you know
fucking
what?
fun.
I care about Nate. I care about all these people. I have to protect, especially in combat. They added
Yep,
the
yep,
AI,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then some of the AI, they'll actually need your help once in a while. Like Sully or Elena will be like getting
And you
grappled
feel
by
the
some
need to
dude.
fucking rush
And
over
yeah, like
immediately, put yourself at risk. But
exactly.
fuck it,
Anyone
no.
grabs Sully or Elena, I'm like, fucking get over there right now. Get the
Yep.
fuck off of her, right? Like that's the kind of feeling.
Don't
And
you fucking
yeah, and
dare touch
even
her.
though I know, right, like, oh, what's gonna happen? It's gonna restart the level. I don't care.
Fine, I don't care.
That's Nathan's
Small
wife, and
price to
that's
pay for
Sully, dude.
salvation.
Go fucking help. You care about these people. And that's just like, even though you have this suspension of disbelief, well, not suspension, even though you have this sort of preconceived notion, which is mostly correct, of like nothing major is going to happen to these characters in terms of like life and death.
No, but the
Um,
story is still like interactive and so interesting that I don't care if there's no real danger or
yeah, it's just
they
it's
still
it's just so
portray that
character
feeling in the
focused.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just so character
Plus a
focused.
character, plus what do you call, the action sequences are so fast paced. You don't
Yeah, you
actually
don't really,
have the time to
and I think
remember.
that's the beautiful
Oh,
thing.
there's no real
Yeah,
danger here.
I think that's
you
the
don't
beautiful
get the
thing.
time
It's
for
like
that.
you just like in the car chase scene, you're driving and you're following these trucks and they're chasing Sam, and you
Yep.
don't even notice that you have literally drove your Jeep onto a harbor and you are about to dunk the Jeep into a river. And at
Yep.
the last moment, there is a hook dangling from a truck, and you just grapple onto that. You don't have time to think. You just
You
kind
don't
of
have time to
do.
think about it.
Yeah, you just kind of do, and like and
when
that
you're,
is
when
the
you're
thing.
sliding on gravel and you're supposed to jump and
At
use
the end
your
of it,
hook,
right? You're not
you
fucking
aren't
thinking,
thinking,
oh,
"Okay,
it'll be
there's
fine if I die. No,
there's
just,
no
just
danger
jump
here.
in, like,
You
yeah.
don't have time for that
And
shit.
so that's what I'm talking about, right? Like, even though you know it's a game, it knows it's a game, and it knows what makes it fun. And you can just tell, like, there's been so much work that's been put into like quality testing this game. Like, the devs have played their own game over and over and over again and made sure that each little part of it is just perfect. and there's almost nothing better than something of that level of curation. And
Yeah, I don't think I would ever call games perfect, but this one is
as like
just
damn
straight up.
near close
It's
to it.
as perfect as it fucking gets. Like I don't know what to say because even everything from the visuals to the story to the character, everything is just so great and so much fun to play. Eh, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's an interesting parallel, right? One of our friends, his name is Blue Screen. He and
Mm.
I talked after finishing Last of Us 2, and we both love it so much, and we think it's fucking amazing. um and he asked me after that. He was like, Dude, Last of Us 2 was like holy fucking shit, like I want to play more games like that." And I was like, "Have you checked out Naughty Dog?" And he's like, "Yeah, I've played like the Uncharted games before." And I was like, "Have you played Uncharted 4?" He said, "No, I have to play Uncharted 4 right now." And he played it, and it was really interesting. The parallel that he drew is like, after Last of Us, which is this really thought-provoking kind of bittersweet experience,
Yeah.
Uncharted is just pure adrenaline and fun. And it's such a light-hearted, it's such a sort of enjoyable experience
Yeah,
that
it's I think you got the perfect word for it. It's just fun and enjoyable,
yeah.
and you
Yeah,
can't
you
really
can pick
beat
up
that.
Uncharted 4 at any point in time and have a ball playing it. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
really matter,
No
which is
matter what
which is
chapter, no
actually
matter
something
what.
I again, this is something I can't say about the previous three games. I cannot say that you can pick up Uncharted 2 and have fun playing it anytime, anywhere. You'll have fun playing it when you're playing through the story, but like if you just took a random level, I mean, it's kind of, I mean, I'm
I mean,
comparing it to
honestly, after
Uncharted
this game,
4 levels of quality.
I'll almost definitely check out all of those games
Yeah,
because
for sure.
holy
I
shit.
see.
I don't
I will
expect
not.
them to follow suit or like uh one up this game.
Oh, no, no, no. See,
That's not a realistic expectation to set.
I think it's not as much one upping. I think it's just that those games they were helmed by a different person. They were, were written by Amy Hennig, directed by Gordon Hunt, and they
I
were
think
just
just for the
made in
sake
a
of the
different way.
characters that
Yeah, no, no,
I
no.
have
I would
seen,
definitely say that
I will
play them for the
play through
story.
it.
Play the games for the
Yeah.
story. And I will say, I've said this to you a lot of the times through your playthrough. Uncharted 4 is the least difficult Uncharted game. Uncharted, in my memory, Uncharted 3 is one of the most frustrating experiences I have ever had as a gamer, period. Uncharted 3 made me chuck my controller real hard. It broke.
All right.
I went from two controllers
I
to one
mean,
controller. It was bad. Okay? Don't do that. If you get pissed, and I guarantee that you will, just put your controller down and go punch a wall or something, because I know you'll want to do
and
that
break my hand.
and
All
break
right.
your hand, so you can't even play the game anymore, and you've done yourself a favor. Well, I mean, it's not that bad, but it's pretty grueling sometimes in Uncharted 3, especially
All right.
some of the last level. Oh my
Honestly,
god.
okay, so I've had, I have my gripes with The Last of Us 2, but other than that, like, even that is a level design wise, it's an incredible game. Of course, I have my gripes with the characters, not with the story. I think the story is incredible again,
Mm.
but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, point is, like, technically
Uh,
speaking, The Last of Us 2 is fucking masterpiece. Like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Uh, if I were to, I don't know. I do like Uncharted better than The Last of Us 2. It's just a different kind of.
Yeah, I see. I think it's like, I think both the experiences are definitely comparable because they are Naughty Dog games, and they actually play very similarly. Like Last of Us 2,
Yeah, yeah.
one of the reasons that, like,
Y-
when I play the
Naughty
last,
Dog has this mark. They have
yeah,
these
you
things
can
that
kind of just tell when it's a Naughty Dog game. You can just tell, and there's instantly
with the
this,
side conversation
yeah,
things,
there's instantly just a quality to it that,
Yeah.
it just leaks lore, and it leaks depth.
Mm-hmm.
um
Yep.
and yeah, like, of course, like, Last of Us is very, sort of divisive thing. Everyone has different opinion about it, which is, I think, like, that's an achievement in itself, right? But when you
I
talk
think
about
the
it on
only
it,
reason I
yeah.
like Uncharted 4 more is probably because of the way it dealt with the characters and how like all of the characters actually had a pretty huge impact on the story and how
Yeah,
everything
because
just
yeah,
planned
because
itself
see,
out.
I know your one gripe with The Last of Us 2. I'm pretty sure it's the only gripe. Like I think I'm correct in presuming that you actually have no problem at all with the story or the outcomes or
No,
anything.
none at all. I think
Uh,
the story was actually great.
yeah. So the only
Everything
problem you had is that
considered.
some characters you felt were underutilized or not
Yes.
used to their maximum capability, which I completely understand.
Yes.
But yeah, like I see, I don't even think like in terms of a character standpoint, like I think it's just different. I think it's just so different, right? Because Uncharted, it's not written that way. It's just sort of,
Yeah. It's
it's
not meant to
meant to be,
be.
it's not meant to be
It's not
that.
meant to make you think. It's not
Yeah.
meant to.
Well,
It's
okay. I'm not
it
gonna go. I'm
is,
not gonna go
but
that far. I'm not gonna say it's not meant to make anything, but it's
listen.
meant to be.
At the
It's meant to
core of
be a
it, it's
sit
meant to
back.
be fun.
Yeah, it's meant to be a sit back and relax experience. Whereas Last of Us 2, in my opinion, I make no mistake. I think the writers, when they were writing Last of Us 2, they knew.
They
There's no way you
obviously,
don't know.
fucking
They
obviously.
knew, right?
They don't put you through all of that
Yeah, and
and
not
like
know
don't.
what their effect is on you.
Yep.
um but I think like Uncharted 4, it's just meant to be this. I'm gonna quote Neil Druckmann directly here. It's a playable summer blockbuster, which is just meant, you're just meant to sort of sit back and relax, and you get some very good character development and depth as this little cherry on top. And of course, with the beautiful gameplay and the traversal and all the mechanics, everything about this game is fucking amazing.
Yep.
Even
That's
the
true.
graphics. The game came out in 2016. It's 2020. They hold up.
It
It
is
looks
fucking beautiful.
great.
Again, much like LOU 2, even in the compressing mess that I was looking at it through, it was still absolutely gorgeous. You cannot.
Gorgeous, jaw dropping. And I was about to text you when you were playing the game.
Yeah.
If you see any points you feel like you want to take a screenshot of, it's probably already there because I took it. So
Dude, honestly, I sort of restrained myself from taking a lot of screenshots because I was like,
yeah, no,
you
I
know what,
see.
I gotta
See,
get to the
I
game
felt very free with
first.
that because I was on a replay,
Yeah.
and I was like, this is, when else am I gonna do this? Because I need to do
Yeah.
this, and that just needs to happen. So that it was a screenshot extravaganza. Also, um, uh, I
And I think the
feel,
level
yeah.
design also has something to do about it, like how beautiful the game is, because everything in the level design is so natural. Nothing really
Yeah,
stands.
nothing stands out to you as, oh, this was clearly
This
designed
is
to be
weird. Yeah,
here. This is like,
exactly.
this was made to put here.
Everything sort of makes sense,
Yeah,
so
you
it's
never think
fine when you're
about it.
taking the screenshot.
You
Yeah,
never think about, oh, oh yeah, oh, that ledge was put there because of a reason.
yeah,
Well,
exactly.
the only moments you think that is when they were. So there's nothing really wrong with that. So it's just like, it's
Yeah,
so
and
fluid.
if
Yeah.
anything is there that even could be considered unnatural, the context it's there in is probably an action sequence that's occurring so fast that
Exactly.
it doesn't give you the
Exactly,
time to
right? Like,
think
okay,
like, this might be a little out of place.
even with like something like, let's say, the one scene where Nate and Elena are in the jeep, then they cross a bridge and they fall into the river.
Yep,
Even that tree at the end of the river, at the waterfall, which you hang off of, didn't,
yep.
like, it still didn't seem out of place to me. It was still,
It didn't.
yeah, it was like that would be there
And
probably.
I would be lying if I said it wasn't because I was falling off of said tree, you know? Like,
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, like it's just fucking amazing. And this game, I think, like, if I was to put sort of a cap on this game, if you love video games in a way which is more than just quote unquote having fun, right? If you judge games by the metric of, is this fun to play, Uncharted 4 will satisfy you, no
yep,
doubt.
pretty
But
much.
if you are in search of something which is slightly more than that, which takes the time to engage you both emotionally and mentally, in this experience, and it takes the time to do all of these tiny little things that add up to make a beautiful masterpiece of a whole. And you want this experience which is more than just a fun game to play. Uncharted 4 has that in spades.
Exactly.
And of course, if you want something like that, I would say just refer to any of Naughty Dog's games pretty much. And if you want, I would say, like, stay away
I
from The
think
Last
that's
of Us if you don't want like a headache from crying or something. But if you want a good fun experience which at the same time is so much more, Uncharted 4, that's just kind of the peak of it.
yeah, pretty much. I think it's just that it was just such a fun game to play while also having an incredible story and incredible characters and all of that. You know, it's just an all-rounder, and I can't not appreciate that. It was an incredible game, as close to perfect as a game can get,
Yeah.
in my opinion, of
Yeah.
course.
Well, I feel like I have a lot more in store for you then in that regard. Considering
Yeah, I mean, okay, I
you
do.
haven't finished The Witcher 3, especially Blood and Wine. So I would
Yeah.
definitely hold off on saying that until you finish Blood, because to me, lot okay, when it comes to narrative storytelling in terms of like
So,
story, I Last of Us 2 still tops it out for me. But in terms of single player storytelling and gameplay, and just single player game, I to
so I
me,
think
yeah.
I think with The Witcher, at least what I feel about the game is that the world is straight up one of my
For
favorite
sure,
worlds that
for sure.
in
Yeah.
any fantasy game,
So the thing is, like, with
other than maybe Harry Potter, you know, like.
the reason I'm telling you to finish Blood and Wine as well as the main game, right,
Hmm.
is because the main game, is very occupied with the world. And there's a lot to do with the world. And the thing about Blood and Wine is that it purposefully reduces its scale in order to give you a much more focused story experience, which in my opinion rivals, if not surpasses, the main game story. I I'm
That's a very bold statement that I will
trust me, once you play it, it will
almost
not be so
definitely
bold
check out.
anymore. It will be very, very within the reach of logic. um
Just to clear one thing, I think that is how DLCs should be. Okay,
oh,
DLC shouldn't be
wait,
just a fucking
wait,
skin. Just saying.
wait till we talk about the microtransactions episode, huh?
Yeah,
Okay, that was our thoughts on not The Last of Us 2. We've already done that. That was our thoughts on Uncharted 4. We love the game. We think it's a masterpiece. And if you haven't played Uncharted 4, play it.
I'm gonna
um,
give it a 10 out of 10 rating.
you go ahead and do that. Like, I fully support that. In Right. So now that we're done talking about that, before we leave, just want to tell you guys, we are on our new schedule. This is the first episode that we're recording on our new schedule, and you should be getting 4 episodes from us every month. Hopefully on every Monday,
Yep.
they should go live. And next week, we should be having a very interesting conversation about sound design in video games with one of our friends, Shawshank. And we have a lot more planned.
And we also have a bonus episode on Patreon if you want to check that out.
We do,
Uh,
even though the
yeah.
Patreon thing, still kind of working that out, I'm not gonna lie. So I would say hold off on that for a little bit. But we do have bonus episodes. We do like to record bonus episodes for things that
Hmm.
we kind of feel like we don't want to discuss on the main podcast for some reason or other, but are obviously still related to
I think the
games
the
in the
the
gaming
one we
industry.
did last time
The one
was
we did
what,
last time
the
was about the Xbox
Xbox.
Game Showcase and
Yeah.
our candid thoughts on it. Even though the Xbox Game Showcase episode of Auto Update, which is our new show, is out currently, you can go listen to that. Um, we had some other things to say. Anyway, thanks for listening. This was our game review on Uncharted 4. We'll be coming to you every month. I want to say with at least one game review. I feel safe saying that a little bit, right?
Yeah,
Um,
because we do have a considerable bank of games that we have to get through.
yeah.
I'm gonna, you know what? If I don't plan on sleeping now, I might start Ghost of Tsushima right away.
I would
See how
definitely say
that
give it a
works.
little bit of time for that.
All right, fair.
Yeah. All
But
right.
yeah,
So everyone, thanks for listening. I'm Coder,
and I'm nerd.
and we'll see you next time. Don't say over and out. I
Over
will.
and out.
You're. I'm
Over
not.
and out.
That's not in the episode.
All right. I'll still say it. Over and out.